Okay, this is going to be an exciting episode. This is where we put everything together. We put together how we've worked with gems and all the nested routes and views and controllers and the photo uploading capability and finish it all up right here. So we only have to do one small change, and it's here in the task model file to finish up the ability to upload. And you just type in mount underscore uploader and then pass in whatever value it is, and I forget what the value is. It is in the task table. It's task file, so you can always find that in your schema file, and then you just tell it the type of uploader you want. So this is going to be the task file uploader. Hit save. And now let's start up the server and confirm that everything is working. So wait till that starts up, and there we go. And now let's go to localhost 3000, go to projects, and you can pick any of these. I'm going to add a new task, and this time I'm going to actually upload a file. So click choose file, and I'll just pick a random image. Hit create task, and it looks like it worked. If we click on task for this project and click on attachment, you can see it brings up the image that we uploaded, which is perfect. So this is actually, if you right click on it and say copy link address and go and paste it up here, you can see this is a really long URL. And what this is this is a cached URL from AWS, so from Amazon Web Services, and this has even some information in it, such as when it expires and things like that. And this is a great way to store your images if you have a blog or something in that side of the world. And the reason is because it prevents people from ripping you off with hot linking your images. So one big problem that people have is if they're on, say, WordPress or something like that, they'll save their image and that image file URL never changes. And so people could go copy this URL right here, paste it in on their own sites, and then every time someone visits one of those sites, you have to pay for that fee and for that bandwidth, which really isn't fair. So what this does, it caches it. So if someone comes and grabs this URL, it's going to expire it in a day or something like that, whatever the value on the expiration is, and then other people can't rip you off and make you pay higher server fees. So that's just another nice benefit for using AWS services. So this is all working perfectly. Now I want to show you a little bug that you may or may not run into. Let's try testing this out on one of these other values. Let's try doing it for this this one, which has an empty description. Now I'm going to click add new task and come try to add an attachment here. Hit create task, and you can see nothing happened. It didn't do anything. If we open up the Rails console right here, you can see that it rolled back the transaction, and it rolled it back right after our callback happened. So this would not be a good thing in a real application, and the reason for it, or what's causing this, is if you come back to your project RB file, you can see it validates the presence of title, description, and %complete. The problem here is we were trying to update, because even though we weren't purposefully updating the file, or we weren't updating the project ourselves, our callback was. And so this is something you really have to watch out for when you're building applications. You may add validations later on, and then what that will do is it will mean that all the data that you had previous to that didn't have to go through those validations. So you might run into some kind of silent errors and some problems. And so you really want to make sure, if you ever run into something like that, that could be the issue. The way that usually I'll debug something like that is I'll come into one of the callbacks. So if I come into this task RB file, I'll do something like this. And there's a few different ways to do it. One, if you use a gem such as pry, you could actually open up a terminal session inside of the Rails console and then use pry to debug it and to find some things out that way. That's a little out of scope if you're just starting off. So something you can do that works out pretty well is when you see this callback update %complete, you might put some debugging code in here. And the way you do that, you could do something like this. So I'll say puts, and then I'll do a string with asterisks, and I'll multiply this by 500, and then I'll do puts. I'll say beginning of callback, and then I'll copy this, paste it at the end, and say end of callback, except instead of asterisks I'll do like an ampersand or something like that. So now if we come back to one of these that wouldn't pass a validation, come here and do all the same stuff that we did before, hit create task, nothing happens. But now if we go in the console, you'll see all of our debugging output. And one thing that you may notice, you have all of our asterisks and you have beginning and a callback, but guess what? You do not have the end of the callback. So this is a great way to see that, okay, the problem, because if you did, say you did this from scratch and you went and you integrated your file uploader and everything and it didn't work, you could spend hours or days trying to figure out why your file upload wasn't working, when it turns out that that didn't have anything to do with the problem. The file upload worked perfectly. You can see it up here. You can see that it didn't roll back until it tried to do the callback, and we could even drill down a little bit further by putting this debugging input in here, and then you can see that, oh, this never happened, which means that it never got to this stage. It never, everything stopped right after project update. So that's a way that you can put some debugging output into the terminal. It's something that I find really helpful whenever I run into a bug that I can't figure out, and that's something that I think you'll get a lot of use of. But all of that to say, great job if you went through all of that. That's how to integrate a number of gems in your application, how to build file uploading into your application, how to wire it all up, how to do nested resources, the way that we put tasks under projects, and that's really a lot of pretty advanced work. So nice job on that, and let's get going on the next section.